Yeah, our plans generally have been to alternate between some readings from our Cosmic Voices website, and then Regina and Jeanne will take over and perhaps bring some of our friends on the other side through directly. Jeanne and Regina, would you like me to start with Carrie Fisher's reading?
Sure.
Okay, on our website, each entry is preceded by a very short, sort of a thumbnail biography of the person, and then a key quote from their message. So, in the case of Carrie Fisher, Carrie Frances Fisher, 1956 through 2016, was a prolific actress, writer, and comedian, perhaps best known for her role as Princess Leia in the Star Wars films. She was the daughter of singer Eddie Fisher and actress Debbie Reynolds. She died of cardiac arrest on December 27, 2016, at age 60, 4 days after experiencing a medical emergency during a flight from London to Los Angeles. And the key quote is, "It's Christmas and Carrie needs to show up." Christmas, it's my favorite time of the year. People used to ask me why Christmas was so very special. So much so that I would keep at least one Christmas tree up in the house all year long. Hell, it kept me from having to dust in that chosen spot and reminded me that life can be magic. It has been almost 3 years since I left the human world and my human body behind. It has been an interesting journey of sorts. I've found out who listens and who still closes up to anything remotely unusual, healing, or inspirational. I can fly like Mary Martin and Peter Pan and travel to so many beautiful places. I've been reunited with friends and family and some wonderful coworkers. I've seen the stars in ways even the most advanced technology cannot duplicate. I've also met the sickest and most despicable beings. And yet, through these travels, I have still found my home, my heart, and my light. I've experienced more people passing. Their deaths tremendous opportunities to understand the passage of the soul when it changes shape. I've heard the cries and followed the energy of regret through so many who are housed in our glorious, quote, penal colonies on this side. I have sung my own songs in the middle of the ocean and gained a sense of peace beyond words in this human form. I have swum with the biggest whales and creatures of the deep blue sea, and I have sat on the moon with others, looking back at our tiny blue planet, wondering why it is so hard to be kind and awakened without fear. I've gone back to those quick moments on the plane 3 years ago and wondered why I chose that time to leave. I've reached out to Billy, that's Carrie's daughter, Billy Lord, cried with her, laughed with her, prayed with her, given thanks with her. I have visited old flames, lovers, friends, and tried to spread my energy around them to comfort them. I have watched as the world has become darker and darker, as dismay and delusion have broken the spirits of so many fine, kind, and loving souls. I've grieved the horror of each of them as they have forgotten the connection to God, whatever God remains to be for them. And I've spoken with the greats, those leaders whose lives were cut short, making them martyrs, but not really helping the forward motion to peace and equality. I have sung "We Shall Overcome" with Martin Luther King Jr. I have walked with Gandhi and said his mantras. I have looked for those who left at the hand of Jim Jones to ask them why. And I have gone to my own people in LA and asked them why. I've walked away for a little bit of Earth's time, forging into new territory in order to gain a better perspective, to understand the creative forces, to get a glimpse of the truly divine. I have been visited by those spirits who are written about in the inspirational works. I have traveled to the lands of angels and was given a crash course on the different levels of angels, what their jobs are, where they come from, and why they stay with us. It is not what you think. I have slept all night at the Hollywood sign to be joined by those who are still suffering and are locked into the punishment of still being earthbound. I have even tried to talk a few into coming with me, However, their view of themselves was so harsh and despondent that I simply didn't have the strength, awareness, or understanding of how to help them in their own need for forgiveness and release. As of late, I have come back here. I got tired of traipsing the beautiful mountains and valleys of Nepal, the rugged energies of the Himalayas. The hardest place to leave was Tibet. But it is Christmas, and Carrie needs to show up. Everyone will be expecting it, and I don't want to disappoint. God knows I have disappointed so many over the years. Let this not be one more disappointment. I'm grateful for so many things, people, understandings, but the most important part of myself that I am thankful for is my tenacity. I don't give up, even when I should have hours, months, or years ago. I am grateful that enough of my friends and family see me, feel me, and know that I am ever their watchful Carrie Angel. LOL. God help us all. My wishes and prayers for all of you this year, this blessed holiday season. Take care of loose ends. Watch out and listen to your thinking, because it just might be your demise or your redemption one day. And one day, maybe, if you look up to the stars on a starry, starry night, you might see me traveling across the skyline in my faux fur coat, screaming at the top of my Carrie Fisher lungs without the damage of years of smoking. Merry Christmas to all, and a very happy and blessed New Year. Carrie.
I've got that message up on my phone, so I was following it with you. And I hope you all are blessed with really feeling her. It is so truly Carrie Fisher, if you know anything about her, know any part of her struggles in her lives. And I think it really tags along with what we were talking about last week and being aware of spirit and making a space for it. That, you know, spirit is right here, just at a different frequency and a different vibration. And here she was going around really trying to connect with people, to let them know that she's good, that she's fine. And yet she was saddened by such resistance from so many that they, really didn't want to really walk into that space with her. Although I know that the people closest to her, especially her daughter, very much knows her mom is there and is very connected to her. But I love, every time I read these, I get more out of it. And Dan had said to us, to Regina and I, when we were on our little Zoom this week talking about today, if I may say so, that Dan, you mentioned that every time you read these writings, you get more into it and you get more understanding and you feel more connected to the person who's communicating. And it's a never ending gift, I think, to so many. Regina, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I could just feel her here, listening to her words again. I'm listening to the words as if I heard it for the first time all over again. I'm not. Thank you, Dan, for reading it so beautifully. I don't have anything to say. I'm kind of, I think, a little bit in shock with Gary's situation, so I apologize. I'm trying to be really as present as I can. So,
well, I think we all are. And if Carrie has anything to say, which I know she does, to any of you, if you have any questions for her, as we've done before, you can always put it in the chat. She's been over enough now that it seems interesting. When we're channeling these Hollywood energies, sometimes people aren't quite understanding why they're important. But if we've talked before on other podcasts about the fact that we come in groups, we incarnate in groups, and the several people in Hollywood are part of the group that Regina and I are in, and actually many of you, in terms of promoting the concept that we continue to live on after our body dies. And they use that platform to be able to extend that further in their passing. Certainly with the movie that Robin Williams did with Roger Cabler, being Robin, he was just possessed with getting that message out that he was still here. And Carrie uh, is just as dedicated to seeing people get what they need as others who may be more philosophically remembered or esoterically remembered. But she was very much about humanity and fairness. And she had her own strange tragedy. I mean, she did several, but the one that she was telling me to share with you is that she'd been out to a party with a friend of hers. They were just friends, a male friend, but they were just friends. And they partied a lot, and they were too tired. He was too tired to drive home. So they just fell asleep on her bed. And she woke up in the morning and he had passed. And that was just really frightening to her and scary to her that he had died right beside her, given her psychology and the struggles that she had with mental health. Um, so she said she can really understand what Gary was going through in that regard. And it took her a long time to walk past that. But I see that, Dan, if you want to share, Linda has a question.
I was wondering, my dad brought her home once to discuss mental illness and bipolar and everything like that. And I was wondering if you could ask her if she remembers coming here. It's this house here. I remember her wearing like a white silk shirt with like lace and buttons down the back.
Oh, she's bristling. I love that blouse, she said.
She was like an angel. She looked like an angel.
She said, well, I had to pretend there was something good about me. Yeah, she does. I feel like she had a tremendous memory. She said, even through the drugs and the alcohol and whatever else I did to kill my feelings, she said, I still had memory. She said, if you got me before I had one of my lobotomies, then I would remember. But afterwards, my memory was gone for a while. I feel that she spoke to several people that she met through her pathways, and that was really the most important part of her work, is what I'm hearing her say. And I think I've even read that being able to reach out to people who had something to do with mental health practices or themselves were involved in their own mental health journey, because that was what she lived with more than anything. And so she was very conscious of talking to people.
Was so open and honest, and
there was nothing. Carrie didn't hide anything. She was just out there. She had Tourette's, and she'd be the first to say it. And that's why I love that passage when she said, just look in the sky for me one night and you'll see my faux mink stole or whatever traveling through the night. And that's so her, because there was nothing quiet about her. She said, I was tiny. Why do you think I had to be so loud? Otherwise, people would look directly out and they'd never see me. I was, a little teeny thing. So in my mind, I had to be loud. And of course, then I grew up in a household with, Debbie Reynolds. So, we developed our own way of being seen and heard. But she said, I very much remember that night. She's showing me a little puppy. Was there a little puppy in the house?
German Shepherd, yeah, a little German.
Okay, so there you go. That would be her.
I remember asking her how she buttoned all those little buttons, and she's like, you don't have to button them. I just pull it over my head.
Yeah, exactly. Why stress? She also felt a lot of compassion and a very comfortable space with you and the people that were there. There was, when they got over the shock and awe of having Carrie in the house, then she felt that she was just one of the regular people.
She was.
And it just, the whole Hollywood thing disappeared, which she was so grateful for, so that she could be even more open and honest. She said, trust me, if it hadn't been that way, I wouldn't have probably been quite so open and honest. But I felt right away that I was secure. And she said, I had a lot of sixth sense experiences, but I know I just didn't talk about them that much because that was the least of the things I needed to share with people when I had all these other things going on. But she very much does. I feel like there's a lot of wood around in your house, or there was a lot of wood.
Yes.
And so, she she's saying, how you doing? How are things? Have things
I'm
improved?
good. I'm good. I'm right here with you now.
So this is
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you so
That
much.
was great, Linda. Wow, that was great. I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you had that personal connection. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's what when I was getting all choked up as Daniel was reading it. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, hooray, I love that. Um, senior moments, I tell you, these things fly
was
through
just-
my brain and now I can't remember.
Ellen put a question in the chat. Would you like for me to read it to
Oh,
you?
yes, please.
Okay, she said Carrie's reference to the Jonestown situation has a strong very personal connection with me. I'm curious what prompted her to mention in the context of this channeling, if that could be asked.
She says, well, I really wanted to look at crazy. And she said, you know, I wanted to look at the different levels of reality that people live in and try to understand what could draw people to some person and them just follow them along like lemmings and fall off the face of the earth.
Mhm.
And she said, I wanted to see, I mean, and once I knew I could travel, I had guides with me. She said, but I wanted to show me this, show me that. And I feel Carrie was like that even when she was still in her body. And she was like, you know, I want to see these things. And of course, uh, she would be limited as to how much she could push herself into something, you know, so that she didn't get trapped in the energetic of it. But she's telling me there was still this space, this dark space, in which she said the majority of those people were still stuck when she visited. So she said, I was kind of like looking through binoculars or a telescope to see, you know, where they went. Because I said, where did they go? Knowing my own transition, where did they go? And she was able to see this because the guides around her knew she would be communicating and that this would be powerful to people to understand all the variations there are when people pass over and when they move from one position to another. And that's why she was so curious about things. And I, you know, her sitting with Gandhi and others doesn't surprise me because I, you know, our little small group has worked with Gandhi uh, for many years. It's been incredible. So he works with those people who have that same and similar consciousness. So well, that's a good question from Peg too. She's asking about we incarnate in groups, going to give us an idea. Well, yeah, that's kind of, I'll see if I can consolidate it. Don't let me forget. And yes, hyacinth people are in limbo. The thing that's misunderstood often when people pass away is that they automatically have someone there for them to help them over. And in the majority of the cases, that's absolutely true. When my daughter was in the ICU for 4 weeks, really starting to make her transition, and I was there so much, I'd have very interesting experiences with a code blue. And it would be almost simultaneous that I would see a family in spirit going down the aisle right in front of our room, and then I'd hear code blue. That family was already there to help their loved one over, and then we heard the code blue. That happened 3 or 4 times easily when I was in that ICU with my daughter. And it was I don't want to say it was exciting because it was, you know, a sad time, but at the same token, it was so gratifying to know that their loved one was, you know, they were all there for them. And then after they had the code blue finish and the person didn't survive, then I saw the same family members with that person going back down the aisle again or the hallway again to go out to take them wherever they were going to take them. It was a phenomenal kind of experience and situation. In terms of uh, most people have people waiting for them, but you have exceptions to that when you have people who have taken their life suddenly and believe there is no life after they take their bodies out. Their pain is so bad, a lot of people just don't want the pain anymore. So they commit suicide, take their lives because they don't want to be suffering anymore. And they figure that's it. And Regina and I have had experiences, some early on in our friendship, where people were stuck and we had to help them because they didn't realize there was going to be anything more. And no matter how many relatives were there, they simply were not seen because the consciousness and the thought process of the individual that had passed did not include that. And so, you know, that's a reason why there was one experience I just will never forget. And Regina and I had known each other for several years. I was still living in the Santa Cruz area, and we had meditation. And her husband was a firefighter. And there's a series of things. I hope I get it in the right order because memory is different now. But basically, she brought to me that there was I think her husband brought. He came to pick her up from the meditation we were doing at a friend's house, and they were having trouble getting this suicide that he went to on his call that had set himself on fire in a field and couldn't get him over. No matter who was around him, he was just stuck. And all of a sudden, the only thing that seemed to work was a little dog that had been his little dog. And then he realized that he had passed, but he still had consciousness because his little dog was there. And then an aunt stepped in to help him. And finally, we were able to get him over into the light, and he was able to receive the help that he needed. But it doesn't end there, because then later, Regina called me up and said, "Oh my gosh, I got to tell you this." She was with some of the wives of the firefighters that go out occasionally. I think they went bowling or something. And she said, the sister, I'm hoping I'm getting this right, Regina, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The sister, I think it was, of the man who committed suicide, got a phone call, and it had to do with, this is where I'm going fuzzy on my memory, but it had to do with the story of what we did with helping this gentleman over. Somehow was communicated via dream or vision or to this, I think the sister or whatever. Like there was a phone call from an aunt that said, like the EVP stuff, he's over, don't worry about him. And this is how it happened. And this lady, who was the wife of the firefighter who had heard this, was sharing this, and Regina was there. And Regina called me and said, "How did she know that? How did she know what we had done? Because it didn't come from us." And I can't remember exactly how it was relayed anymore because it's been, 40 odd years. But it was amazing to me that transferred and was, shown. So there are these wonderful connections. But in terms of, yes.
Oh, Jeanne, yeah, I just, not to interrupt, but the what you've been narrating reminds me of my friend Neil, who I think Regina remembers. Neil had his body frozen. These people who have their bodies, sometimes just their heads or their brains, frozen with the idea that science in its infinite wisdom will eventually figure out, excuse me, how to defrost and revive the person. So my friend Neil was one of these folks, and he had his body frozen in a place called Alcor, which is in Scottsdale, near suburb of Phoenix. And I had at one point asked Regina to check in on him. And Regina, do you remember that experience? You're muted.
I remember you asking. I just don't remember what all happened. What you will have to.
Well, what I recall is that you went there and were eventually successful in prying Neil loose from he was there obsessed with his body.
Yeah, he was with the tank.
The tank, the cryo tank, and that you managed to pry him loose and get his attention and liberate him from this. And you also made an interesting observation about the place, the cryogenic facility, which you said had some of the lowest vibrations you'd ever experienced, and you had to sort of go take a shower afterwards. Anyway, Neil has checked in since then with gratitude to you, Regina, for helping him to detach from this fixation. And Jeanne, what you were saying about the Jonestown folks and the believers and so on was really what reminded me of this, because a fixation is a fixation. It almost doesn't matter what the object is. So yeah, Neil checked in recently. I think Regina, you relayed that message, and he was delighted and said that he can't wait for me to get to the other side so we can compare notes.
Well,
I have this metaphor.
I'm sorry.
No, I have this metaphor of a great sidewalk cafe in the sky, where we go and encounter our old friends from previous life.
But, your heavenly conversations.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Jeanne, go ahead.
So anyway, Paramahansa Yogananda said, when you pass, you take yourself with you. Mm-hmm. So whatever your belief system is goes with you. And people don't always understand that because, well, certain people believe in the pearly gates and all this, and that's probably what they'll find. Other people who don't have much of an attitude about what it's going to be like actually are easier to help because they don't have any preconceived ideas. And then those who have been practicing their passages, like George Harrison is a very well-known person who talked about how he really envisioned his death from the time he was, 30 years old, on the influence of being in the Hindu energy with Ravi Shankar and everything. He was very much into that, and he left with a room filled with light. His widow, Olivia, said, you didn't have to turn on the light bulb. She said the room just filled with light when he left. And that's what he wanted, because that was important to him, to how he left and how he believed himself to move onward and forward. And so there are a lot of people, when they die suddenly or die thinking they're going to just stop the pain, they find out differently, and that's why a lot of mediums are trained in rescue work, which is what I was originally really kind of brought up in when my mediumship was developing, and then I passed that to Regina when she was, taking lessons from me, how to help people over who aren't stuck. And then my daughter Kylene, that's over on the other side, she doesn't do it as much now, but she for a while would bring people to me and tap me on the shoulder and say, so and so really needs help. And I would say, why don't you do it? She goes, oh no, you're much better at it than I am. You can do it. She'd even call me up. Well, before she'd passed away, she'd even call me up and say, Mom, I just passed a terrible accident and the guy's dead. Will you help him? And it's like, well, why don't you do that? No, you need to do it, Mom. So because people do get stuck and they get lost, and whether they're in limbo, and I'm not sure about the James Jones thing about them being orphans or not, but I know with the Montauk stuff, they did take orphans and people who had no families so they wouldn't be missed. I don't want to speak to something I'm not sure of, but yeah, no, people need help sometimes getting over, or they just need to be able to give their messages, and then they'll move over. So yeah. Is there anything else? Carrie would like to say to all of you, she said, this is for everyone. She said, I know you guys are concerned about Gary. She said that he's a fine old fart and he'll get his way through everything. And the thing is, she said, we resist change so much at times. And when we resist that change, unfortunately, things happen to push us into the next space, because we've asked to have help so we don't linger and we don't waste time in certain energies that do no longer serve us well. And Carrie said, I was struggling so much in my body with addiction and peace of mind. And so I know that's why I took myself out. And interesting there, 6 degrees of separation, I actually had a client whose husband was on the paramedic team that went to her at LAX and took her off the plane. And so that was interesting too, because that I liked Carrie beforehand, but I wasn't a team member of Carrie Fisher. But when it happened, all of a sudden, when the news went out, I knew right away she wouldn't make it because my daughter had died of a brain bleed, and all sorts of complications too. And you just kind of know. They just kept her alive until, you know, it was obvious that she wasn't going to come out of it. But anyways, it was interesting that I had a client whose husband was on that team, and they got her back, but they knew that she probably wouldn't make it. But Carrie says it was time for me to leave. I know my family was sad about it, but I had done all I could do, and I was such a product of my my issues, which I had worked on and worked on, but there comes a point in time where I felt like I was beating a dead horse. And yeah, I was really unhappy that I left at Christmas time. But Jean firmly reminded me that I love Christmas, so why wouldn't I do it at Christmas time? But she said the biggest thing I would like to be able to share with all of you today is to keep on being who you are and really stand your ground if you, as you can, to helping others know that life continues on and that there are unbelievable opportunities for growth, whether you're still in a physical world or if you're in a world that you just talk about or dream about or read about. She said, you're eternal beings. We all say the same thing because that's what we have discovered. And it's so beautiful that it hopefully would help to ease the pain, the sorrow, the suffering of so many when struggle to make sense of why am I here? What is it all about? And the point of the thing is, it's just to be here. Some of you have special plans, like when Jean was talking about the groups that I'm a part of, which she can address later if there's time. But we come here to experience ourselves, to explore, to evolve. As Seth said, she goes, now Seth is a kick in the pants. And he really has it together. He doesn't sugarcoat things. We're here to evolve. We live other places, but we come here to go, wow, how does it feel to do this and that? And how can I work myself out of this? And can I work myself out of that? And how much have I remembered and learned from the last time I was here that I can employ to do this? It's about being in your creation. It's as simple and as hard as that. And some of us choose certain lines of endeavors and others choose other things. Some people choose easy lives this time around because they've had tough ones. She said, it's just an incredible show of, hey, look what I can do. Or, wow, I missed that one. I'm going to do it differently, blah, 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 or whatever. And the hope that comes and the knowing that comes from realizing that we never die, hopefully can bring everybody into that space of lightness so things are not so heavy. She said, I know people are focused on Gary. And she said, and it's really terrible. It's really earth-shattering when you lose your home and your pets. It's just grievous. But she said, on the other hand of it, just think about what he's going to be able to do and create, and who knows what he'll discover about himself. And that's why these things happen. Still the balance to mourn, but also to know, wow, what's next? Not, oh my God, what's next? But wow, what's next? For me, she said, I chose a lot of stuff. I really piled it higher and deeper on myself. But I learned so much, and now I'm here, and you guys are giving me far too much time to talk. But I have to go. They're giving me the thing now. But thank you all so much, and go back and read Cosmic Voices. It's great stuff. And have a great year. Anyway, I'll sign off as Carrie Fisher. Until next time.
Thanks so much, Jean. Okay, I guess it's time to move on to our next Cosmic Voices reading. This time it's John Denver, with whom I had a very brief personal connection before he became who he became. A really sweet individual, really kind person. Okay, John Denver. Henry John Deutschendorf Jr., 1943 to 1997, known professionally as John Denver, was an American singer, songwriter, record producer, actor, activist, and humanitarian. He was one of the most popular acoustic artists of the 1970s and considered among the most beloved entertainers of his era. An avid pilot, he died at the age of 53 in a single fatality crash while piloting his light plane. And this was brought through by Jeanne on August 6, 2020. The key quote: "I had tremendous resources, incredible friends and family, but I was still not whole. I knew what it was supposed to feel like, but I was unable to lock it in permanently. And that is why I am writing through Jeanne today." Hello. I'm honored to be able to be here today and to be able to communicate my message of hope and love to all who find their way to this website. I have been with this gifted channel, Jeanne, for many years, almost since the moment I left my physical body. She's been a loving and dedicated soul and has taken her role in this world seriously and with great integrity. And that is why I stand with her today as she translates my mixed feelings and emotions about things as they are right now on Earth. Those of you who are reading this may have come to it because of my name in the music industry or my involvement with the environment. Whatever the reason, I am truly grateful to all of you for feeling my spirit and continuing the work that I began all those years ago. So here I am. Since stepping out of the body, I have stayed close to this earth world and continue my work from this side because this side of the veil because I felt it was not finished. My basic message comes from a simple yet uniquely beautiful song, which I did not write. Oh, the irony of that. I think some of you may remember this song. It was popular some years ago, and it goes like this. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, by and by. In my life as John Denver, I had a reputation, much of it quite favorable, and some not so nice, but partly true. More than anything, I just wanted to sing and express what was in my heart and on my mind. But I was human, vulnerable, and unaware of the difficulties that fame and fortune could bring. This is all behind me now. What I have found is the peace that seemed to be elusive, that seemed to come only from my high flight or when I walked the wilderness. All of that reminded me of who I was, who I could be, but I couldn't always hold that energy for long enough periods of time. I knew I was seeking comfort, direction, and wisdom from the inner world, but often my outer world did not support the fragile inner world that I was dealing with. I had tremendous resources, incredible friends and family, but I was still not whole. I knew what it was supposed to feel like, but I was unable to lock it in permanently. And that is why I'm writing through Jeanne today. Over the years, I have shared with her and those close to her many of my new insights and understandings. We have even written some pretty great songs together. But through it all, the one thing that I have truly learned, experienced, and walked forward into was the light. This indescribable source of the divine. Words fall short, but I will do my best to paint a picture which hopefully will fill your souls as it does mine. If you could think of a brilliant light 10 times brighter than the daytime sun and place it just over the horizon as a beacon that draws you to it, then you will begin to understand what I have found and where I live. The reason this is so important now is because I've been shown how you can live in the physical world with that same light. That same beacon that called to me calls to you, each and every one of you who seek this divine source. Jeanne's daughter, Kylene, passed to this world in 2011. As you can imagine, it was very traumatic for the family and her friends. Kylene has been communicating with Jeanne over the years to ease her pain and teach her more than she could have ever imagined. Kylene has said many times, "Mom, this is the darkest planet. If you can find your light here, you can find it anywhere." And so I bring this vision to you as a source of inspiration. If you can imagine that beacon over the horizon and allow it to bring you to it in the blink of an eye, then you too shall find your brilliant light. I promise you that I will shine with you. I will join you in your light quest, and we shall merge into this brilliant consciousness of light and love.
Thank you, Dan.
Sure.
Thank you.
Your
So
turn,
I-
Regina.
Oh, my turn. Okay. So I don't feel the channeling need at this point. Right now, what I'd like to do is just comment about, it seems strange. I know that we have these events or these experiences that are with celebrities. I used to question it a lot, kept thinking, why us, And Jeanne would say, why not? Why not? And it's JD, as we call him, John Denver, JD, has become an incredible friend for me, especially. I hike continually out in the hills and the mountains where I live, and I'm by myself with the dogs. And there's mountain lion, no bears or anything. We do have mountain lion, and we have lots of coyotes and other predators. And it's so strange. I can be out all by myself with the two dogs walking along, and I can hear him singing, I am the eagle, I live in high country. I'm a frog that sings, but I literally feel like I'm hearing a sound of music coming over from John Denver. It is, and there are times where all of a sudden I'm walking along and I'm just thinking about things, and he pops up beside me, just walking with me. And it's a lovely feeling. It's just a lovely feeling. No big messages there, no big things. And what it is I recognize more than anything when these entities do that to me, they're showing me love. They're showing me a light. They're showing me sometimes when I'm in my little, oh, poor me kind of stage mind, that they're right there. And I can hear them. I can hear their footsteps in the grasses. It's a nice feeling, and I think that's what I want to share about John Denver. More than anything, nothing profound except that he walks and hikes with me all the time. I always feel like I've got a hiking buddy. I know that sounds crazy, but really, and I think what more than that, I think that it's a good reminder for all of us to know that we all have our hiking buddy. We all have our walking buddy. We call him our ferry, our parking ferry, or somebody's in the back seat with us, or we all have somebody or someone or an animal of some sort that literally is more than just that. And I think that's really the message on this, is that they're right here, and they want to be known that they're right here, and they're not known as a celebrity over on that side, because everybody's an equal over there. We're all special, each individual.
Alan Rickman said that we are the celebrities, that they are just regular people over there, but we're the celebrities over here for them, because we are the people that are still here working through all the challenges of being in human form, and that our strength and our persnicketiness, our tenacity is very admirable. So we become their celebrities. And as you were saying that about your walking buddy with JD, one of the things that I was thinking about, one of the things that the Spirit is really trying to get to us, and what we are working with for all of us, is the connectedness into, I don't know that we can erase the idea of separation, but when we come into the body, there is this separateness that happens from the rest of who we are as a soul being. And we spend a lot of our lifetime trying to reconnect to that. And so many songs are written about, I feel an emptiness inside, or I'm lonely. And we think it might be having a relationship. And if we had that perfect relationship, we wouldn't be lonely anymore. Well, there's there is a point to that. But really, I think what drives that is the separation at birth, when we are away from the rest of who we are, and do not have the obstacles on the other side that we have here. That's why it becomes a very great place for us to incarnate, to explore, and also it becomes a very difficult place. And so the message, of course, then is that are we creating a space to really feel our spiritual essence? Not only those that are with us on the other side, but our own. How much are we allowing our own essence to come through, our own higher being, the more of us to be in our everyday lives? And I think Spirit is with us to remind us of that, to keep that opening there for us to walk through it, and to be able to communicate so much more easily with ourselves, our own higher nature, and then, of course, to the others that are walking with us, that have promised to be there for us, to help us remember and create that space. So for 2025, for me anyway, in terms of thinking about what I want to do better or what I want to do more of, is to be able to create that space for myself where I allow the good to come to me, where I allow myself to be really fully involved. The higher energies, we talk about it as higher, hard to explain. Words are really difficult when we're talking about consciousness. That more expanded self, I mean, we have to be in our bodies enough so that we can drive a car or manage walking one foot in front of the other, but also to be able to find the balance of expansion and be able to welcome in spirit as our friends. Because, for myself, and I know Regina's, it's not that we talk to dead people. Dead people talk to us, and then we talk to dead people. But which came first, the dead person or our conversation? And it's because there really is no death. We mentioned last week that there really is no afterlife. There's just life. So in this other life, but we are kind of working to try to use the right skills of word choices. But how open are we to our group, our team on the other side? That we talk about being on this other side, but they're really right here. My daughter used to stand in the doorway of my room, when she was physically present, and she goes, "Can I just say?" And after she passed, I would see her in that doorway. "Can I just say? Can I just tell you?" And she doesn't have to do it that way so much anymore, but they're right here. George Harrison, when he passed, and Martin Scorsese did a beautiful 3-hour documentary on George Harrison. It's really brilliant. And he opened up with talking to his son, Danny, and said, "Well, what would you say about your dad? If you could ask him a question, if he was here right now, what would you ask?" He goes, thought for a minute, goes, "Where have you been?" And his dad would say to him, as he said, "I've been right here. I've been right here." And of course, you guys all know this, but there's an extension of that. There's a deeper level, a deeper level, a deeper level, which brings in the comfort, which brings in the confidence, which brings in the clarity and the joy of knowing the fullness of living in spite of what's going on. In today's world, this is our job, is to hold that energetic, whether we're teaching it, whether we're singing it, whether we're working a regular job. Our job is to hold that truth, because that then snowballs and touches so many other people, even if we do not talk much about it with them. It just is there. And JD says, "I love the fact that people still sing my songs, because it allows me and those with me to continue to be your friend and to hold that space between corridors, between one world and the next." And he said, "My promise is true. If you want me with you in space to help you feel better or get clarity," he said, "I won't necessarily be an individual guide, but I will come to you, and I will sit with you and help hold that energy for you, so that there is expansion and whatever you need in friendship." Because, and this is me saying this, but John would say the same thing, he's a collective. He comes from a much larger source. And this is a way of then bringing harmony to the world. And he just loves it. And he'll show me things once in a while when I'm on the computer, and he'll direct me to places where they're using his music that I had no idea that they were doing it. And that it's wonderful to see just the continuation of life for all of us. So that's all I have to say about that, unless anybody has any questions.
Jeannie, Liv is behind you and kind of tapping your shoulder. So So I think that we're going to have to allow the two that want to live in to talk, and then Dan, if you want to. I don't know. I'm just seeing her like tapping her foot, going, "Okay, John. Okay, John. My turn."
Yeah, well, and they were good friends. And of course, Liv stepped in briefly last week. And the reason she's in this week, I think, is to honor Wendy and Karyn, of course, in the Australian community, as well as the rest of the global gathering community.
We're speaking of Olivia Newton-John.
Yes. Her transition was so easy because she believed in all this stuff, and she had worked with consciousness and all this understanding, and said how she'd appear with the orbs and in pictures, which she's done since her passing. I feel from her, she said, I know how Gary likes me, because on a podcast that we did with Gary and Sally, she did speak through, and Gary admitted that he had a crush on her in his younger years. And she goes, "Oh, she said, sometimes it irritates me when people tell me that because they don't know me. But Gary has that kind of heart when you know that he knows your heart. And he might have been drawn to the outer shell of how he looked, but I think really he also felt my heart. And that's the way I want to keep it." But she said, I was there when this happened, when the fire started. And she said, "Don't ask me why. I want to give that message to Gary personally first. And if he'd like to share it with you later, he can." She said, "But I knew this was going to happen for him. What we did is to make sure that he got out, because that was the most important thing, is that he did not lose his life. And that happened. And it really is interesting that so many of you had rough nights that night, because you were all part of that work of making sure that he got out safely and wasn't injured, because he could have gotten out in various degrees of health." And she said, "We all have these tragedies. I dealt with cancer for so many years, and everybody said how courageous I was and how strong and brave I was. And she said, I didn't feel particularly strong or brave. I just wanted to get through it, and I didn't want to leave. I had a daughter, I had life, I had my wonderful husband. I didn't want to go." So she says to me to tell you, there are times when you have to let go of things, like you have to let go of a house, Gary. But there are other times when you never give up and you never surrender. You just keep moving forward as much as you can, walk with that, work with that, and have that be your mantra, because when you leave the body and you look back at what you've done in your life, you want to go, "Oh, I did the best I could," or "I was really happy that I did that. That was really good for me that I did that. And I don't have regrets." Or you have regrets, but that's okay, because you've got this area done well when you did, etc. So she's wanting to thank all of you for being so dedicated. They all really want you all to feel it personally, that they're not just saying this to you, that this is a personal gift of gratitude for every single one of you on this podcast, for your position and what you're doing. Because even though the world looks like it's in chaos, she said, the only world that matters is what's inside of you. And she said, it's not selfish. It's just what's important. Because if you have chaos in yourself, if you're conflicted, that's part of the world's conflict. Mm-hmm. And it's really important to know that the best gift that you give to the world is a balanced, loving, healing soul. Because that connects to all the other loving, balanced, healing souls in the world right now. And you create this incredible matrix. And she said, I see your lights. I see you meditate. I see you shine. You don't see yourself shine as much as we see you shine when you're in meditation. It's incredible. So she's been thriving. Her transition was so easy. She goes, I'm so happy over here. She goes, I feel terrible because I'm so happy. I've got people behind who are grieving, but I'm so happy. She said, but there's just so much more to include in your life before you make your transition. Don't look at waiting to leave. Oh, well, I got another 3 years and 45 minutes. No, enjoy it. There's so much still to be enjoyed, and you don't have to have money, and you don't have to have fame. In fact, sometimes it works against you. You have your beautiful light. You have knowledge and information that so many other people don't get yet, that haven't been making a space for. And you have this beautiful space, and you allow us to come in and be in your space. And she goes, it's such an amazing gift. She goes, you have to believe your magic. That's my song. You have to believe your magic. And anyway, she wants to be able to go over to questions and stuff and go from there. But Jeanne, the medium, has to take a break because she takes Lasix. So she has to be close to the loo. And I will be very open with you about that because of my heart stuff. So the Lulu is calling me, and I'll be right back.
Thanks so much, Jeanne. I think in your absence, we will swing over to Robin Williams. And before I do this reading from Cosmic Voices, I want to mention that sometimes when I tell people about the website for the first time, they say, "Oh yeah, famous people, yeah, right." And I refer them often to a quote from Alan Rickman, which is on the messages page of the website. And he says, I haven't had much desire to get to the famous people here, because once they are here, for the most part, they lose that famous identity. That is for a good reason. Lingering in the past brings no fruitful present. I think it's a wonderful, pithy quote. Now, over to one of our favorite folks over yonder, Robin Williams, who needs no introduction. Thumbnail bio is Robin McLaurin Williams, 1951 to 2014, was an American actor and comedian, known for his improvisational skills and a wide variety of memorable voices. He's often regarded as one of the best comedians of all time. In August 2014, at age 63, Williams took his own life. His suicide was attributed to his struggle with Lewy body disease, which is a brain disease. And this was brought through by Jeanne on August 17th, 2020. And the key quote is, "Guess what, everybody? We never die." Good morning, y'all. I would have liked to have been able to use the phrase from one of my movies, Good Morning Vietnam. But given the circumstances and the state of the world at this time, I come to you all rather from a place of deep respect and honor. Hell, darn near heroic proportions of attitude for getting this site up and running. That being said, I have also come with a message of hope, reunion, and recovery. This is where my message for Cosmic Voices begins. It was said of my passing, what a horrible waste, what an awful way to go. I heard so many say, he must have been in so much pain to do what he did. The sorrow for my passing lingers still on some levels of consciousness, certainly with my kids and those who are closest to me. However, I come to you all today with a much brighter message, a more serious and yet hopefully uplifting message. Guess what, everybody? We never die. We leave our physical bodies and move on to greener pastures, places not yet explored by the human mind. But the cosmic mind knows when to take over when we leave this world to travel to our next mailing address. Yes, my method of leaving the physical world was pretty dramatic and no less harsh, in part because I wasn't in my right mind. in part because my mind had been in various stages of being lost. I could not find my home planet. I could not find my resting place. Nothing was familiar to me. My old skills for coping seemed to be lifted from my consciousness. I was unable to respond to the world in the way that I had for most of my life. I was distressed, unreasonable, angry, and very difficult. I was slipping away, and there was nothing I could do about it. Nothing. And so, voila, here I am talking through this fabulous medium, Jeanne Love. Can you dig it? Love is really her last name. And she is a love in the most wonderful sense. My method of leaving, though difficult for so many to comprehend, was the only way I felt I had any control left over my life. In my fits of insomnia and ragged thinking, I decided that I needed out. If I had really been thinking clearly, I would have chosen a much better approach to my leaving, but the point is here that I was not thinking clearly. I was distorted and dismayed. But I'm here now. Here, I am right here. Life is such a funny thing. We are born, named, referred to as cute or pretty, as having a mild disposition or being difficult. I think in my early life I was probably everything at one time or another. I found myself through the activity of pretending. I loved to pretend, and as I grew in my gifts, I loved to help others pretend. Then I found that laughter was a much better form of pretending. Laughter brought life, a new vision on difficult stuff. I found that I thrived in the element of people and helping them to laugh, to share and to honor their own experiences. I was fed from their magnificent energy. We were this synergistic circle, the audience, me, the audience, me. Today, however, I come to you in a different form. I come to you in the memory of Robin Williams. But I'm actually much more than that physical human story. Since my passing, and with the help of those who are trained to help suicides recover from their difficult passage to this side of the veil, I come to you to suggest a new form of thinking. I bring my perspective on life and the continuation of consciousness. Once life, I bring my perspective on life and of the continuation of consciousness once life has changed shape and the physical body can no longer hold the energy of the life form. My dear friend Chris Reeve and his beautiful wife Dana were the first to greet me when my spirit left my body. They knew that I was going to leave. They knew I was going to take my life, and so they were ready to help me come out of the tortured energy of my physical world and into this great world of love and peace, joy, much more laughter and light. An old friend once said to me, "Robin, if you ever pass before me, please keep me posted as to what I should be looking for. Signs, directions, so I don't get lost in the vast world of the unknown." Well, as it happens, I did pass before my dear friend, and I have been in contact with him. At first, it was hard for him to believe that I actually was contacting him, but after a few initial signs, he got it. I'm grateful because it helped to ease his pain. I've pressed myself against the glass of love and whispered words of comfort to my children, to my wives. Yes, all of them. I appreciated all of them, each for their gifts and support, each being a part of each stage of my life. I am grateful to be able to still have an influence on those whom I love and those who love me. I want them to continue to know that I am still right here. Sometimes there are those psychics who feel they need to rescue me. Oh, poor Robin is stuck in the darker ethers. Or this one gets me most. Robin will now have to return to make up for the fact that he took himself out in an untimely way. Poor Robin. Please. I knew exactly what I was doing, putting an end to my suffering and the suffering of those closest to me. After doing the movie What Dreams May Come, I had a totally different perspective about life and death. I wasn't afraid of dying. Rather, I was afraid of living in a dark world of my own making. I was afraid of disintegrating into the point of a dribbling old man bound to a wheelchair. There was still too much life in me for that. The suggestion that I will have to come back to atone for my actions is a thought that many have. However, in this new world that I am actively present in, there is only the now, and that includes whatever we wish it to be. There are times when I come very close to the physical realm and enjoy the movements of those who are most important to me. And then there are times when I am allowed to travel into other realms of thought and structure, realms which are far more beautiful or poignant than anything the mind can imagine. Then there are times when I sit with my friends who are here and reminisce about life in the physical world, what we would do differently, how it would look if we chose to come back into the chaos of the physical world. We all agree being human was a challenge, but we also agreed that being human was an infinite gift of life. We see ourselves in this collective consensus of thought. It means that we are very similar in our thinking and beliefs, so we can work together to bring harmony and peace to the human world. It is our project. I guess one might say that the human world is our project. And for those of you reading this message, that can be the utmost of gifts. It is the utmost of gifts because it means that you are not forgotten. It means that the human world continues to resonate with us in its importance and in our love for humanity. It means that we are just around the corner from you and that we are available to send healing and peace-filled thoughts to you and your loved ones. Why is this necessary? Why is it important? Because, my dear friends, from here I can see clearly now. From here I can see that life is continuous and life is brilliant. From here my view is positive and kind. From here I see the waywardness of dark thinking, of the loss of balance, the loss of hope and truth. From here I can see how the world, our world, can right itself once again. From here I know what needs to be done. From here there are no limits. From here there is only the possible, joy. From here there is the awakening of spirit and the consciousness of life and creating. The people/spirits that have been contributing to this Cosmic Voices website are souls who still understand, see clearly, are still connected to the elements of physical human life. We are not done yet. We are very much alive and contributing to the healing of your world. My mantra continues to be, life is love lived with the connection to all that is. It is not much of a stretch to consider that being my philosophy. I always walked the way of seeing humanity and working to help it uplift itself. This is no different. Because I can see, because I can feel, and because I am still able to communicate, I carry this message as far as it will go. There is always life after life. There is always more. There is always room for more understanding, wisdom, and good choices. For those who feel that they never will live another life, will never have to answer for their actions in the human world, oh, baby, have you got a surprise waiting for you? Because no action happens without an equal reaction, good or bad, depending on the deed. There was always retribution for those who feed the dark side of their souls. Equally, there is always beauty and joy for those who have a good, clear heart. There are places over here where the dark souls go. And then there are these amazing systems where those who are filled with love go to continue living the life of grace. As I close this long communication, I would just say this. Live your life like it is truly your own, because it is. The outside influences are what you allow them to be. You always have a choice as to what you listen to and what you seek in your life. It is up to you always. You are the creation master. You are the writer, director, set designer. After you set everything up, then you'll act it all out. I didn't like the script I wrote at the end, so I decided I was out and left. I continue to apologize to those who were hurt, disappointed by my choices. Excuse me. It was the only way at the time that I knew how to write. It was the only way at the time that I knew how to write myself out of my own story and begin again. Thank you for reading and listening. Mine is just one perspective, but I hope that if you glean anything from this communication, it would be that you are the master of your life. We never die. We just move on. And the big one, we are just a whisper away. Robin Williams.
Thank you, Dan.
So, any questions? I'm looking at the chat. No questions.
I want to know why Robin is as active across so many mediums as he is. Is it just because he can, or was it part of his plan?
He wants to make sure people pay attention, and he's going to go wherever he can for that. He was all about trying to help people feel better. He was always about giving something to people so that they would be hopeful, they could be happy, they could be seen, they could be honored, they could be heard, acknowledged. I mean, if you read about him when he was on set, part of the writer on his contract would be that homeless people were employed and that other things took place that would honor other groups of people. He was a very humble guy. And he knew he had something special, but he also knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of his penance is because he did take his own life, which disappointed a lot of people who loved him so much. They couldn't reconcile what he did. And as I'm hearing him now, and if anybody you've seen the movie Being Robin and how he just pushed with Roger Kabler until he could perform again because he said that part of Robin wasn't finished. We have many aspects to who we are. There was the performer that was Robin, there was the photographer that was Robin, there was a humanitarian. Just like with Carrie or with John, they all had other gifts. John was a photographer, he was a pilot, he was an environmentalist, he had all these different parts of himself. With Robin, the humanitarian in him realized that it was a messy leaving. And it's funny because, well, I wouldn't quite say that. I said, well, I think it was. Because when people, you know, how we are is just watching other people who are in the spotlight. We have our opinions. We either like people or we don't. We either understand or we don't. We either whatever. And he had just been there for so many people. He had annoyed his people too. I mean, the people who were really annoyed by him when he was trying to work with them, because when he would turn on, he didn't stop. And Regina and I have experienced that firsthand. Gary, unfortunately, is not here, but he and Sally have experienced it. Dan has experienced it when we were doing work with the FMBR group up in the Bay Area years back. He's just got this mind that doesn't stop. And so
can I quickly just relate a very brief anecdote? I think this is the first time that when we were with the FMBR group and Robin showed up. And I live in Marin County where Robin lived, and there's a traffic tunnel that's now named after him. So I said, well, Robin, every time I drive through the tunnel, I think of you. And he says, oh, the tunnel. He says, I love to stand in the middle of it with my arms outstretched and watch the cars go through me. You can't make this up. It's one of these things you never forget.
yes.
We have a couple of questions, but go on, Jeanne.
Well, anyway, I think I probably answered it pretty well. But he said, he goes, look at it, I'm a loudmouth. You know, I want to continue to help people to wake up and not to be so sad. You know, the separation, we forgot. And he said, so if I will continue to be a loudmouth and a cheerleader and be annoying as hell if I have to be, he says to me right now, in order to help people step back, take a deep breath, and realize, oh my God, we're never going to die. We're just going to change shape, do different things for some peace. He said, I must have known that inside of myself because the movie changed me. That's the What Dreams May Come. Because my whole view of life changed. And I guess that was one reason why taking myself out of my own misery wasn't as much of a challenge for me as it would have been for somebody else. But I realized that there was always more, even though I couldn't really express it. Anyway, I hope that helps you understand, because he has been everywhere, for sure. I get people telling me all the time things. So I'm just and my oldest daughter had wild and crazy things happen with somebody she just met. And the lady said to her, who was very much an intuitive, said to her, why are you so interested in Robin? Why is he with you? She about fell over because this lady had no idea what this person in front of her's mother was and what she did. All these things. Anyway, yes. So, question.
Well, this is so synchronistic that I'm sitting here going, "Blah," because the night that I couldn't sleep, that was Gary's house is burning, I was distracting myself because I was very disturbed. I was distracting myself going through all the Peacock movies and documentaries to try and find things to watch. And I found among them the documentary called Robin's Wish, which I actually ended up watching last night and learned about Lewy body dementia, and realized that that's very possibly what drove my own mother to take her life. And I feel a very strong sense of Robin's presence in this. So I just want to express gratitude and the synchronicity is phenomenal. I just wanted to say it.
Well, they're glad that you have put the pieces together, because I've been watching your mom through most of this show behind you. Patiently.
You know?
I have been so distracted by what's been going on behind the scenes. Christina's brother has been there with her in the background. Sally's son has been playing with a cat toy around the cat. One of those little things where you have the little fuzzies on the back, and he's been doing this all around the cat, trying to get it to distract you. And obviously it was going across the keyboard. But Ellen's mom was there too, very patiently waiting. And she is like, what the one thing she wanted to ask you, Ellen, is she forgiven, if you understand this now?
Completely.
And that is what she has come, and that's why all of this has just come through. She said this was part of Robin's assistance. And she goes, I would never have met Robin had it not been for the group. And she's been hanging around you so much, trying to get through to you.
Yeah.
And Robin has been patiently waiting for his time so that the subject could be brought up. So there you go, Ellen. And she's hoping that you can sleep now with a little more ease, because all she saw because she was such a brilliant woman, and to see that her brain she knew what this meant. I mean, it wasn't diagnosed in that way. She knew that her brain was decomposing, basically, is what she kind of wants to say. That's not quite the word, but she's deteriorating. So, and she knew it was going fast. So anyway, I'm sorry to bring this downer on this,
No,
but I'm sorry, and I don't have channeling going on here. I have tons of conversation in the background. There's someone with Peg as well, and anyway, and George. Oh my gosh. You guys have got so many busy people. So we'll let Diana go on next.
I just
Diana.
want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Ellen.
Okay.
You're up, girl.
Hi, everybody. I have a question. I don't know when, once I've seen Robin Williams too, because I was quite touched when he passed. And maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I had an experience. I do animal communication. And before I've seen him, I had 2 or 3 weeks before, I have something about a gorilla. And later on, I found a video that Robin Williams was actually had a connection with a gorilla. But my question is this gorilla still alive or is he dead?
Good
Because
question. I'm not
anybody
sure.
knows.
I think it was Kiki. Isn't that
Coco.
Kiki?
Yeah,
Coco died.
Coco. Yeah.
And was
Coco
he
died
looking
sometime.
for him? Because I sent him out and say, I think I got a gorilla. Have you met him?
I think actually he's passed.
Yeah, Coco
He passed.
passed.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, that explains it. Because I
Probably
had a
sometimes you
gorilla
couldn't tell
first and I had no clue why I see a gorilla.
Robin says sometimes you can't with all the hair I had on me. There wasn't much difference between me and Coco. The way our arms went down. And sometimes Robin says Coco was smarter than me. But
Okay.
he wants to tell you how beautiful that you got that. And all of you are very empathetic with all the world. But he said the animals hold us together.
Mm-hmm.
The animals hold us together between the earth and the animals and the creatures. They are here for us to draw from,
Yes.
to be supported by, to remind us to take a deep breath and feel our connectedness. And Robin has a compliment for you, Diane. He says, you're really good at what you do. And he said,
Thank you.
you kind of live in a zoo. He said, you have a lot of these animals, all sorts of species around you, not necessarily in your house, but yeah.
No, that's a stuffed one. That's not a real one. No. No, I
but
don't have
around
right
you.
now any animals, but I think sometimes in spirit, maybe there are some. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. And he said, your compassion is well noted and appreciated. And that's how he, of course, would communicate with you because that's so much a part of who you are. And Robin says, why wouldn't I bring Coco to you? And the other thing that Robin wants all of you to know is when you think you go swimming with the dolphins, when you go to Hawaii and you pay however much money to jump in the pool with them, he said it's nothing like getting in the ocean and swimming with them. And he said, you have no idea how many souls do that. That if you could see the souls jumping on the whales, jumping on the orcas, jumping on the dolphins, and jumping with joy in them. And he's showing me the picture of recently. There are all these orcas, killer whales, off the coast of California, which is unusual for us. We got a lot of other whales, but now I see them. I see them all with people on their back, all the spirits on them. And then there was this huge, thousands of them down by Dana Point, which is south of Los Angeles, almost to San Diego. Beautiful area.
Yeah.
Thousands of dolphins. It was amazing. The footage was incredible. People on top of them, riding them. I had never, it just floors me right now. It's just like, wow. To help continue with the harmony of the water, trying to clear the water, clear the environment. Wow, what a gift. Thank you. So yeah, you definitely had a Robin experience.
Okay, well, that shows that was something on my wish list, which I still should do before I die one day. It's like whatever.
Play with the gorillas?
No, go swimming with the dolphins. That was something on my wish list. And he just reminded me. Yeah.
He said, well, go do that anyway, but just think of yourself in a bigger pool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I do the swimming, but there are no dolphins in it right now.
Just a shark.
Yeah.
Shucks.
Yeah, that's him who plays it. That's my hobby.
What kind of dog did Gary have?
He had a lab, a chocolate lab.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Because I had a feeling of a large dog who might have jumped on him.
Okay.
Whether it was
Yep.
Saint Bernard or a German Shepherd.
Yeah,
But-
he had a lab, full-size lab, and he just keeps Gary keeps repeating over and over again, "Bear saved me. Bear saved me."
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was
Well, when he says bear, I get this color of brown
Mhm,
and dark brown
mhm.
as a dog, but a very big dog.
yeah.
Yeah, he was a good size,
Thank you for
full-size
the
lab.
response.
No problem. Well, and with regard to Robin, the surest sign that he was an amazing medium was he could even make a gorilla laugh. If you ever do watch the video of that, it is absolutely charming, and you can see her giggle. So,
Yeah, well, you cracked me up.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Oh, I'm Kevin. Oh,
Christina, did you want to ask anything?
Yes, I suppose. I didn't want to make it all doom and gloom, but because Robin said, you know, if you think that you're going to get away with things on Earth, you're in for a big surprise. Because yes, we will have to atone for it somehow or other. I'm just wondering whether people think that being all compassionate and accepting that sort of principle is rather too easy, that people really want to see some sort of punishment, you know. I don't, but I think that's what people think, that this is rather too Pollyanna-ish, and you know, we ought to be sure of what is the going to be the recompense for things like Gaza and Ukraine. You know, I mean, King Charles sort of sends his condolences to one chap, you know, who dies, or one person. And what about the thousands, you know? It doesn't make sense, you know.
Well, there's a good point in that, in terms of what I've come to experience. And I want to reference, for the indigenous Native American energy that Regina lives in. She lives at the top of little panhandle of Nebraska, which is just like 27 miles from the border of South Dakota. And it's all Indian, Native American territory. And we have done, she and I and Mary Beth and others in our smaller group, done a lot of healing work on the land. There's a big medicine wheel up there. And one of the things that was told to us in our work was that many of the indigenous that are now back suffering, unfortunately, on like Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, had been soldiers who had taken the very lives. So there's this coming around and being on the other side of what they did. I never ever want to say that anybody should be inhuman to any person, regardless of their karma. You know, I'm not saying that, oh, it's okay for them to suffer because in a past life, this or that. That's not what I'm advocating. But there is this circle that happens. And so when, like we had briefly touched on a while ago about young children that die or this or that seems so unfair, we don't need a hell. We have a hell on earth. And so not that everybody that's in a really horrible place is dealing with their own bad karma, but there are those in that who are. And then, of course, it also is human's choice. We see this, what do we do about it? It's all about choices again, about where we're going to be. But I understand what you're saying. It's really not too easy. We may not see them come to their awakening in our lifetime or the decisions that they've made, but they will at some point get locked away in their story. And you know, I don't want it to be just my hope. I really feel that that is part of the record gets stuck here on this planet. That's why it gets so wild, is because the record gets stuck with people not being able to get out of their own stuff, you know, and doing things continually over and over again that would create chaos and turmoil and, you know, the things that we see. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but
Jeanne, to what extent do you feel that, and again, I always try to be aware of the limits of language and the limits of generalization when we're talking about all these things. But from your experience, to what extent do you think we participate in the choice of what retribution or compensation we get or get to participate either on the other side or if we come back?
The
How
100%.
how-
And so it comes to a point of, are we enlightened enough on the other side to come back and know what it feels like?
Hmm.
And if you follow Michael Newton stuff, the books that he wrote on Life Between Lives, great series. You know, he talks about people's decisions having to come back in and experiencing stuff that they might have set into motion in another time period. We're awful to ourselves. I do a big series on incarnating and cluster lives, which I hope to teach this year and hope to make it available for you guys. Something the Spirit has helped me develop about how we choose maybe 14 or 15 lives with one particular theme that goes through all those lifetimes. You know, we could be in America, we could be in Antarctica, we could be in Africa, we could be in Australia, you know, doing those things. And because there really is no time and we jump around in our linear time frame of mind, you know, we could have lifetimes that seem to be futuristic along with the past, supposedly, that are all with that one theme, and how we can break the chains of that theme and forgive ourselves. Because forgiveness is what really helps us then to clear our slate, forgiving ourselves for doing what we did, you know, etc. But we're great at punishing ourselves. People are really good. You see people who punish themselves and go, "Why are you doing that to yourself? Why do you still keep yourself in that?" Because they can't forgive themselves for deeds that they have done at other times. So there's this whole interesting thing, and of course Seth really chimes in with that, and I'm also going to teach a class on Seth. Those are two things I really want to do this year. Is Seth wants to teach about what he calls the quote unquote the future, but the next generation's coming in and how it's going to be different for them, and how we as elders and as coming before them can help shape that reality for them, which should be fascinating. But it's very intertwined, you know, it's just very intertwined. And these have just been years of being with Spirit, and I'm sure that people might have a little different, you know, concept of it. And all of it is true to some level. You know, I'm not saying I got it, but for me right now, this works. And it could change next week. So, but for right now, this is what I have to offer.
Hmm.
So you want to do a little visualization?
Mhm.
I ask that because I want to see us visualize creating that space for ourselves where we allow things to come in. And then we can also incorporate that way for Gary to see his space being there, because it's going to be a little hard for him to get that settled yet because he's in the middle of all this stuff that's happening. But this is the power that we have. It's so important. I when I got into Unity and Science of Mind, of course, they were just big gung ho, you know, create, manifest, visualize, vision board, this and that. But then I got into the harsh reality of that if you have parts of yourself that don't allow it to happen, and then you get mad about it. Well, I had this vision board and it didn't work, or I had this and it didn't work. What's wrong with me? Then we punish ourselves because we don't realize we're a very complex being, and we carry with purpose different elements of other time periods through which we can work and learn and discover more parts of ourselves and to heal. We have the genetics of the spirit, we have the genetics of the family. It's a very interesting thing. So, that being said, let's just, as we're still in this wonderful shield, which makes the purpose of the shield is to keep us very protected from any outside chaos and any leakage from outside forces that would just be annoying, get in our way, disturb us. Just think of how we felt. So many of us felt something going on and we didn't know, and it was Gary. And the disturbance was in the force because we're connected. So we want to make sure our connection is clear, and we want to make sure that we're not connected to other energies out there that do not serve our highest good, that would just put us on the wrong track. And the exciting thing is that there are tools to do that, to make sure, because contamination is really is a big issue on this planet. you know, with negativity and chaos and all of that. And, you know, our belief systems, like we say, we have a certain belief system, we can't let it go, like Neil, who was going to stand by that body no matter what, till all hell froze over. Unfortunately, we tapped him on the shoulder and said, I think you need to rethink this. And finally, he was able to get that. But how many of us have had moments where we just so determined that something was going to happen and then it didn't, and then, you know, yada yada. But anyway, today we're in this space, our hearts are open, our clarity is very much there. And just for a moment, as we close our eyes, as we end this wonderful sharing and connection time, as we're in this big, beautiful four-sided pyramid, it's large and it contains us all, and it's a lovely ambiance inside, and everybody might have their own vision of what it looks like, and that is fine. There's no right or wrong. We just take some slow, deep breaths. It's very lighted in there. Let me just say that. There's no darkness in this pyramid. It is lighted. It's the sacred geometry that protects us. It brings in the knowledge of the soul and the higher self nature. And we just feel this wonderful configuration that we have been building today, and taking the deep breaths to go with it, and letting all the things go from our conscious mind and even below in the subconscious mind that no longer serve our highest good. Just release with love and grace and wisdom into the light, into the light, into the light. And our guides will help us just make a nice clean sweep of that, to let everything go and let everything be what it needs to be, so that we have this beautiful space around us. A mental space, an emotional space, spiritual and psychological space, where we have nothing but an opening to the goodness, filled with love and divine order, safe, peaceful, joyful, energetic. And we just bring this to us and make a vow to ourselves that we have all we need in this space that we nurture every day, to allow ourselves to grow, to become more aware, allow healing to enter in, insights, creativity, whatever it is. It's a protected, beautiful space. It is the future, if we call it that. It's the next day after that. And we get what we need as we need it. We trust and have faith that we have ourselves in order enough to be able to receive, whether it is a check in the mail, a creative insight, a solution to a situation, a long lost friend returning, long lost parts of ourselves returning, whatever it may be. We create this space which brings us the insight and the energy to do with it what needs to be done, to walk with it, to work with it, to become it, to work in the creative flow. It's our beautiful creation space. And we just sit with that for a few moments. And we see that for Gary as well. He is sitting with his space. He may be in sadness right now, of course, but that space is there, and it will always be there for him. For him now, when it is time to walk forward in this new creative space where all of the needs that he has will come into him and be met, things will be in order. There will be money and time and energy and insight. And people will behave themselves when they come into his space and give him what he needs. He will see people benefiting him, insurance companies, etc., 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 seeing the flow without criticism, without punishment or shame or guilt or blame. This beautiful creative space, which goes for all of us, that we release any blame, shame, or guilt that we still might have about something. And forgiveness for the situation that has happened, forgiveness for ourselves for being a part of it, even though we might not have wanted something to happen the way it did. I love the Ho'oponopono. I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. thank you for forgiving ourselves, not because there's blame, shame, or guilt, just because it was what it was. And then we decided, oh, I don't think I wanted to do that. Okay, erase the slate. And here's this clear space, this beautiful clear space for erase like the sand and to begin again and to allow and to welcome all the good that is there. And when things become hard and sad and difficult, a beautiful friend of mine from Unity would always say, when you get to the end, when you don't know what else to say or pray for, you just say, bless them, bless them, bless them. And that is what we do today. Bless them, bless them, bless them. So we've had a lovely time together today. Thank you. Thank you for letting me talk and share so much. My goodness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Regina. Thank you all. Great stories, great people.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Dan. Awesome reading.
And Wendy, would you like to formally close out our meeting?
Well, thank you very much, but I think we'll ask Jeannie to close the shield again as we step out of the shield. That would be lovely. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's been wonderful. Sally, thank you for all the support you're giving Gary and coordinating that. That's really
Yes, thank you.
I want to thank you, Wendy. I just had this vision, and I know Gary will get this information, but Karyn was there with the dog when she was in that fire. Oh, I get the chills. Oh my God. Oh,
that's nice to know.
She was there to make sure he got over. I mean, Gary had lots of other people who could have done it, but Karyn kind of elbowed her way in and said, no, I want to be there. I want to do this. And I feel like the dog was almost as big as she is.
And Karyn was an absolute dog lover, as you might know. She just was so patient with animals. So that makes a lot of sense.
She was absolutely there. And the kitty cats are just the weirdest. I have two. And they go on their own road. But definitely the cat is over as well.
Yeah, I just haven't felt the cat either, but I know she's okay.
Yeah, the cats just go right back to this oversoul energy of catdom. Because I've had so many, and that just seems to be what happens. I have one that lives on my bed sometimes, and when I don't wake up in time for something, she jumps on top of me. I physically feel her, and it's like it's very annoying. There you go. Yeah, mine are not in my room, so. But yeah, that's so. Karyn, she was there for Bear, and she's so funny because she shows all this soot coming out of her because she wants to pretend she was human rescuing Bear.
This connection is absolutely unbelievable.
Oh my God, I love this. I just love this so much. Oh,
thank you, Hyacinth. That's lovely.
Oh.
And thank you, everybody, for being part of this wonderful community. It's
you are so
on
special.
behalf of Gary, thank you to everyone who is helping to support him. Truly, he feels it. He really does.
Yes.
That's what we're here for.
Big time blessings to Gary.
Yes.
So
Sally, can I say one thing more about
Yes.
Gary and his daughter?
Sure.
Because her boyfriend came from London that very night he was killed.
Yes.
That was so tragic. So tragic.
It was.
I had another
really
friend whose fiance was killed in a car just driving on the freeway, and he got shot by a random shot. He had nothing to do with it. It's another real traumatic thing. Bless them, bless them, bless them. So we are in this beautiful shield. We have this beautiful experience, But it's very important then that we disconnect from one another in a way that we can go on in our own, with our own energy fields around us, even though we're all connected. So see yourselves just stepping out of the frequency of this shield that's been created for this group in particular. And I always say to change our psychic signature, which means that because we've created all this light, we're not going into darkness, we're just changing the frequency so that nobody will see us right away. Because believe me, the remote viewers are out there looking. They always are looking. It's not paranoia, it's just fact. And so we just change our psychic signature, and all we have to do is just think it. Changing my psychic signature, and it changes. We're just connecting from one another, and then we're coming back fully into our bodies, which is, we say, I'm 0% connected to any portals or any functions. We're back in our bodies. And I thank to Mary Beth for that, because she's the one that gave me all that information from SRT. She's the bomb. And yeah, I think we're sufficiently moving outside. You could always go into your own group shield if you wish and be there as well as your single, for those of you who have the information that we shared a while back. But blessings to a fabulous day if you're just beginning your day, or a continuation like me that I'm continuing. And for those who really should be asleep right now, may you sleep well, and just feel the love. Feel the love, baby.